Good afternoon. How is everybody? I thought since today you guys are having a chance to go over your essays, that I record the lecture so we don't get a day behind. So the last time we were doing talking with everyone about Iran, so we're going to continue on and finish Iran today. As you know, Iran does not have a very good geopolitical position. They don't have control of the oil exports and profits. They're all controlled by the British. Britain also has soldiers that are stationed in Iran in order to protect the Suez Canal. And you also additionally have the problem of Russia on their northern border. And Russia is going to be going through the Russian Revolution. So a lot of people think potentially that Russia can look to expand southward in order to fulfill their manifest destiny, which was going to be to control the large portion of the Middle East. So to avoid all of this, Iran is going to end up signing the Anglo-Persian Agreement. Basically, it says Iran would supply munitions and equipment to the British trained army. Iran is going to receive a $2 million sterling loan for necessary reforms. They're also going to reduce their custom tariffs, which is going to benefit also Britain and also all the other European countries. And they're going to permit surveying of the country in order to build railroads. So we're looking at even more British control of the area. The agreement basically is going to make Iran into a British colony, which is going to start to lead to mass revolt of the Iranian population. So Reza Pahlavi is going to overthrow the government eventually in 1925, and he's going to nationalize the oil industry, introducing a series of economic, social, and political reforms in order to try to regain control of the country. The White Revolution is what he does, and that is going to be, again, aimed at weakening British power. So land's going to be redistributed, state-owned factories are going to be sold to individuals, the Shah is going to start to solidify power by gaining support from the peasants and the working class. And this is a group of people that were the oil workers that were being exploited by the British. And the British, again, obviously are going to be concerned about maintaining their access to the oil fields. After nationalizing the oil industry, Pahlavi wants to renegotiate British oil agreement. Obviously, the British are going to refuse to do this, so he then turns to the Russians. The Russians are his other options. They want control of the area. They want access to oil. They want to sort of redo the balance of power between Russia and also the British inside of the Middle East. So they're going to sign the Persian-Russian agreement in 1941. Basically, Britain is realizing they can't control Reza Pahlavi, so they're going to support an overthrow of the government and under his son, which is Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and he is going to overthrow the government. With the British support and help, he's able to gain control, and he promises to cooperate with the Allies, and Iran is going to remain under British control. Our next country we're going to talk about is the Ottoman Empire, which was defeated after World War I. It was broken apart after World War I. Although many people still want to be independent, they lost the war, so disposing the empire is sort of the punishment of that. But what it does lead to is it leads to a whole bunch of resistant movements. Eventually, Mustafa Kemal is going to be the leader of the National War of Independence, and he is going to be a winner in this war, and he wins victories in order to gain peace agreements with Russia, Armenia, Georgia, Greece, and also France. A couple years later, you're going to see another leader, which is going to be Kemal Ataturk, and he's going to initiate a series of reforms that's going to change Turkey in an attempt to modernize the whole entire society. Our first reform is going to take a look at religion. So Ataturk is going to get rid of our caliphs, which are religious leaders. He's going to close all religious courts and schools. He's going to prohibit wearing headscarves by public employees. He's going to abolish the Minister of Canon Law and also pious foundations. He's going to change the call to prayer to be said in Turkish and not Arabic. It's going to be basically seeing that there's too much reliance on religion inside of society, and it was stopping you from modernizing. So in order to modernize, you had to get rid of this big reliance on religion. Most of the changes are not going to be accepted by the Muslim majority population. In terms of social changes, women are going to be given equal rights to men and also the right to vote. Again, public employees are not permitted to wear the headscarf, and you have to dress in a modern style. Everyone has to take on a European last name. We are going to use the Georgian calendar, and we're going to move the day of rest, the Sabbath, from Friday to Sunday. Roman letters and numbers are also going to be adopted along with international hours and measurements. In terms of your judicial system, we're going to close all of our religious religious courts and replace them with a European secular legal system. It's going to be based on the Turkish Civil Code, the Penal Book, and also the Trade Law Book. And women are going to be permitted to be elected to Parliament. In terms of education and culture, you're going to change the universal educational system to be established, and it's going to replace the religious-based madrasas. Your secondary and secondary education is now going to be available, and a university system is going to be established. In terms of your economic reforms, your large land farms are going to be redistributed to peasants. Each farm is going to be divided into different categories: one section for cultivation, one section for animals, and one section for development. Industrial factories are going to be built with an incentive system to boost production. There's going to be a problem though. Most of your workers are going to be unskilled and cannot actually find employment. So that's going to decrease your profits. The second problem is going to be state-run enterprises are only going to account for 40% of your manufactured goods. So you've got 60% of your manufactured goods in private companies, and these private companies cannot function and do not know how to function. Because they are functioning at such a low level, the government actually has to subsidize the private companies, which means that they are losing even more money in profits. All right, our next area is going to be Israel. The creation of Israel is going to be seen as a triumph for humanity, a triumph for the Jewish population and their religion, and it's going to be seen as a catastrophe for the Arab Palestinians. Arabs do not believe that the Europeans want to actually, are needed to modernize. They believe they can modernize themselves. They don't want to be mandates. They don't want to be colonies. They want to be free and independent countries. Arabs are going to perceive Israel as an example of U.S. and Western domination of the Middle East, and a lot of the secular groups are going to believe that, again, modernization can be achieved by controlling the oil industry and removing the focus on religion. So in 1947, the UN is going to have a partition plan proposed to divide the land between the Jordan River Valley and the Mediterranean Sea into a Jewish state, and then an economic Arab state is also going to be provided. Jerusalem is going to become an independent international city. The division would drastically increase Jewish land ownership from 7% to 55%, and Palestinians would receive only 45% of the land. The Arab governments and the Palestinian Arabs are going to totally and completely reject this plan, and all surrounding Arab nations are going to invade Palestine the day after independence is going to be declared. This is going to start our series of Arab-Israeli wars. So the first one is going to be the Arab-Israeli War of 1948. It's relatively controversial. For Israelis, this is seen as a support of the independent state of Israel. It's also seen as support of religion, and it's seen as called the War of Independence. For Palestinian Arabs and Muslims, it's known as a catastrophe. It's going to lead to the destruction of Palestinian society, the establishment of Jewish rule, and also is going to create hundreds of thousands of Arab refugees. There are going to be over 735,000 Arab Palestinians that are going to be forced to leave their homes after the declaration of Israel. They either are going to be, they don't feel comfortable living in a Jewish-controlled state, they're encouraged to leave, or others are going to be expelled by the Israeli army. There's going to be multiple UN resolutions attempted in order to create a ceasefire after this war starts, but it's relatively hard to do. Part of the reason is Jewish immigrants had already established small militia groups because the clash between the the groups, the Israelites and the Arabs, have been going on since Jewish immigration had started. So they needed these small militias to protect their homelands. These militia groups are then going to be formed into the base of the Israeli army. It is going to become evident that Israel is winning the war. So Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and also Iraq are going to boycott Israel and all countries that support Israel. The boycott is going to have a positive and a negative. It's going to be negative for Syria and Jordan because they're not going to be able to use their oil refineries, and the Iraqi pipeline has to be rerouted. Jordan no longer has access to the sea, and the countries are going to lose a lot of economic benefits, and also the flow of goods are going to be interrupted, and they're going to see a reduction of tourism. For Israel, this is going to be a positive because they are going to develop a whole new trading system that's not going to be dependent upon other Arab nations. The Israeli army is not actually equipped to fight the war, but again, because of the small militia groups, they're able to not only keep their territory that was already awarded to them by the UN, but also get to gain key Arab areas of Galilee, then the Palestinian coast, and the western section of Jerusalem. In 1949, the UN is going to actually be able to have a ceasefire agreement that's going to be signed. So all newly acquired lands are going to become part of Israel, along with all previously granted lands. So this is only going to create more Arab Palestinian refugees. All right, next country we're going to deal with is Egypt. Egypt had a ruling dynasty before the arrival of the British. Egyptians' main goal was, again, like every other Middle Eastern countries, quickly nationalize, industrialize, and modernize. Egypt's going to borrow money from various European countries to achieve their goals. However, they have insufficient manufacturing, so they're not going to be able to actually repay the loans. The country is going to be relatively close to economic disaster, and then European nations are going to then take control of the Egyptian treasury to forgive all of their debts in exchange for basically maintaining control of the gaining control of the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal actually was a modern day idea that Napoleon's going to try to do, but it was tried, hundreds of years even before that. But the canal is going to shorten the distance around Africa, which is going to lead to French domination of trade, hopefully. The French hope to charge an access fee for the canal, which would include the British, which would actually start to reduce the impact of British trade. However, Napoleon's going to have to abandon the plan due to construction problems. Hold on, Mr. Lamb's here.